Good morning, Monday. I'm Gretchen Haw. It is the 20th day of April, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. At least 11 people lost their lives and many were injured when an SUV plowed through a crowd at a Filipino community festival in Vancouver, Canada. Malacanang has expressed deep condolences over the incident, while the Philippine Consulate General is working closely with Canadian authorities to guarantee a comprehensive investigation and assistance for the families of the victims. Chinese state media reports that the Chinese Coast Guard has seized control of Sandy Cay, a disputed sandbar near Pag-asa Island in the West Philippine Sea. However, the National Task Force West Philippine Sea was still able to complete a maritime operation on all Pag-asa Cays yesterday, reaffirming its commitment to national sovereignty. And Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel has ordered the National Food Authority to move rice stocks to the Visayas in preparation for the 20 pesos a kilo rice program. The Commission on Elections approved an exemption for the Department of Agriculture, allowing the initiative to proceed despite the election ban. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. The Catholic community bid farewell to Pope Francis as he was laid to rest on April 26. Here is a recap of the events during the funeral and burial.
A funeral mass for Pope Francis was held at St. Peter's Square on Saturday, April 26. Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, Dean of the College of Cardinals, presided over the mass. It was attended by thousands of Catholics, including heads of state and leaders from various countries. Among them were U.S. President Donald Trump, French President Emmanuel Macron, and President Bongbong Marcos. After the Mass, the Pontiff's casket was transferred to the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome. He is the first Pope to be buried outside the Vatican since Pope Leo XIII in 1903. Upon arrival, Pope Francis's coffin was greeted by a group of the poor, honoring his wishes. His remains were laid to rest in a simple grave during a private burial ceremony. On Sunday, the faithful began visiting his tomb, which was marked simply with the name Franciscus. Around 200 cardinals, including Luis Antonio Tagle, Orlando Quevedo, Jose Advincula, and Pablo Virgilio David, also paid their respects. This is part of several activities lined up during the Novemdiales, or 9 days of mourning. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, we are One News.
Now we have on the show Reverend Father Kasmir Nema, SVD. He is the General Communications Director or Coordinator of SVD, and he joins us live from Rome. A good morning and a good evening to you from there, from over in Rome.
Good morning po.
Oh, nagtatagalog po pala kayo. Oo, tama po ba?
A little lang.
Okay. As we know, Father is an Indonesian priest who spent some time in the Philippines. Nice to hear a Filipino word over there. But it has been an emotional past 5 days with the funeral and the interment happening. Everything in a whirlwind. But how did you spend your last 24 hours?
Well, I had Mass at Vatican this morning. It was Mass with the pilgrimage of youth. And the afternoon also I joined the cardinals, went to the Santa Maria Maggiore Church, where Pope Francis was buried, and I could see thousands of people came to visit and honor Pope Francis there and prayed in front of his tomb.
Are you based in Rome, or did you really fly to be able to mourn with the Catholic community over there at the Vatican?
I was assigned here around 3 months ago, so I was assigned to the SPD General Communication in our main house in the SPD. It's about 5 kilometers from the Vatican.
Mm-hmm. And I saw in your Facebook profile picture that you had a special encounter with the Pope, a very personal picture moment there with Pope Francis. Tell us all about your encounters with the Pope. What were your most vivid memories with him?
Well, that was actually the climax of my personal encounter with Pope Francis. But before that meeting happens, I had two opportunities to cover him as a journalist. I went to Indonesia last year, September, and also to East Timor to cover Pope Francis throughout his Asian visit, Asian trip. And most of all, it was a personal encounter together with other priests and journalists during the communication meeting last January, January 27th. And it was unforgettable, a very important moment for me personally because I was not able to see him in Jakarta and in East Timor. I was not able to shake my hands with him, but eventually, in unexpected way, I was able to see him personally in the Vatican. And there was no much conversation at the time, but I just say I'm Indonesian, and then he was surprised to hear that, and then he said, "Oh, Indonesia." So that was the conversation that happened that day.
During the time that you were covering him, what for you stood out when it comes to his papacy? What was different with Pope Francis and the way that he led the church? And what did you notice with all of his visits, particularly in Asia, this part of the world?
Two things come to my mind, no? Based also from my background as an Indonesian. Catholic community in Indonesia is very minority. But here, Pope Francis, last time he came to Indonesia, he brings this idea of interfaith dialogue. It brings this idea of how to build a bridge and not walls, no? And I think that is one of the very important points that remembered by most of the Indonesians, how Pope Francis came to bring this idea, and also he appreciates the tolerance has been practiced in Indonesia. And a second thing that I personally also always touched by Pope Francis leadership, when he talks about the poverty, he's not only talking in the level of theory or philosophy, but he himself really practice what he is talking, what he is preaching. I think these two things is always remain in my mind, in my heart when I'm thinking of Pope Francis.
Well, Pope Francis definitely known to have opened the Catholic Church to many more parts of the world, and also to many more faiths. You mentioned that in Indonesia, Catholics are a minority. How was his visit received? And how did the Islamic community welcome the Pope?
I was so surprised to see how thousands of Islamic communities in Indonesia welcomed him during his September visit last year. And if you notice in Jakarta during his visit, it was not only Catholics who, watch for him on the streets, but also the Muslims. And I think the best way to prove how the Indonesian communities or Islam community remember or welcome Pope Francis is this time during his passing. And it's thousands of tears in Indonesia remembering him. It's not only Catholics, I can tell you, it's a lot of Muslim communities, even those grassroots people remember him during this morning time. And I could notice that thousands of people are in tears, and they also join the service, liturgical service in Indonesia, in different parts of the church, in the parish, and also in different communities.
How has the community or the church grown in Indonesia during his time? And you're right, no. I think he lived universal values of compassion, of mercy, of justice, of concern for the poor, and he lived it through gestures as has been talked about his legacy. But how has that translated into growing the Catholic Church over in Indonesia?
I guess I could see now that, particularly if you look at from the perspective of governmental system, at least a lot of values or from Pope Francis that has been practiced and also been followed by most of our religious leaders and also our governmental leaders in Indonesia. Pope Francis has been cited by many, particularly in this time after his visit. For me, that is a sign that how Pope Francis has influential power over the governmental systems of a country and beyond the Catholic community itself. Even non-Catholic communities begin to cite him in different ways, in different levels of Pope Francis normally talk about, for instance, talk about the dialogue, talk about the poor people, talk about caring with the environment. So for me, so many people of around the world, particularly in Indonesia, who has been cited Pope Francis. I see this is one of the big impact that Pope Francis had brought to the society, to the world.
He has definitely made the church more geographically diverse as well, adding, I believe, more than 20 new cardinals from territories in Asia, in Africa. But how has that changed the church from within? I mean, from you, coming from your point of view as an Indonesian priest, how has it changed the system and decisions made?
Well, of course, to speak of changing system is not an easy. I guess because it will be involved so many things. Even though there is some boosting aspect from outside perspective, but the change is also mostly influenced by internal system. So, but I hope. There is something be alert for people to at least to change, to follow the example that given by Pope Francis, and I guess it has been happened, even though it's very simple manner in the simple way. But I hope it will be also keep continue even after Pope Francis passed away or leave us all.
A call for his reforms to continue. We are headed towards the conclave in the coming days. Just wanted to know, I know we're not allowed to endorse anyone or promote anyone or much less talk about it too much, but what are the Catholics feeling over there about the possibility of an Asian pope? And are there favorites over the cardinals, Indonesian cardinals?
You know, like you may notice, there's been plenty of rumors around about who will be the next pope, whether it's coming from Europe again, from Asia, or from Africa. And there are many names circulating around the social medias and so on and so forth. But for me personally, as also personnel of the church, I guess whoever the pope will be chosen by the cardinals. And today, by the way, we're going to decide when the conclave will be started. The cardinals will have meeting 9 a.m. This morning, and they will decide the date to start the conclave. So I personally believe whoever the pope chosen by the cardinals, that is the pope of the Catholic Church, and that is our Pope. And let us hope that Pope will continue to carry on the values and principles has been sought by Pope Francis. Whether it's an Asian or African or European or American, whoever he is, I believe with the trust and faith, Holy Spirit, and that person is the right person for us to guide the church in the coming years.
Whether the Pope is Asian or European or from another continent, I guess what's important to you, Father, is that the next Pope does align with his catechism and with his policies. So thank you so much for your time and shedding light on the Indonesian point of view with what's been happening over there. And we mourn with you. Please do say a prayer with us over there at Santa Maria Maggiore. Thank you so much for your time. Father Kasmir Nema joining us live from Rome.
You're welcome.
Now, still in Rome for some live updates, reporting on ground is One News Senior Manager for News Content, Jovi Francisco. Magandang umaga sa iyo, Jovi. Kamusta naman ang mga kaganapan dyan over the weekend?
Good morning, Gretchen.
Good morning.
Okay. So, sinabi na ni Father, it will be an important morning here in Rome because there will be pre-conclave meeting, yung ba tawag doon. Parang ganun yung dinig ko kanina, Gretchen, at madedecide na kung kailan ang start ng conclave.
Okay.
So,
Kahapon.
may big story na for later.
Kahapon ay second day of mourning. There were masses held, I believe, by our cardinals, but also another mass at Santa Maria Maggiore. Did I get that right? What happened yesterday?
They call it the Vespa, tama ba? Vespa prayer. Parang yung yung equivalent ng padasal natin. Kapag meron namatay sa atin, 'di ba, parang nagbibilang tayo. May mga gabi na ilang gabi tayo na merong padasal, no? So ganoon ang ginawa nila. Walang misa na nandun sila. Pero nakikita niyo sa video ngayon, yan yung arrival ng members ng College of Cardinals, at sila ay nagpumasok nga diyan sa Basilica. Ang reason nila is parang yung first time nila, Gretchen, na bibisita doon sa puntod ni Pope Francis. Tapos nagkaroon nga sila nung prayer after that, parang a little bit about an hour of prayers sa Basilica. Tapos umalis na sila. Kumpleto yung apat na cardinals from the Philippines, Tagle, David, at Vincula. Nandiyan sila at sumali sila, at pagkatapos ay hindi nagpa-interview.
Mukhang nga sinubukan nga ng
kahit yung
kasama
foreign
natin sa
press,
media,
kahit yung foreign press, they were targeting at least Cardinal Tagle for an ambush interview near the bus, yung tatlo or apat na buses na nakaparado for them just sa labas ng Maggiore. Pero wala, kita na sa body lang kami, yung Philippine media na nandito nag-aantabay, gets na namin yung nasa body language na parang tatanong sa'yo, pero alam mo na walang questions, walang tanungan.
So walang Cardinal Jovi na nagpa-interview kahit yung iba, yung ating tatlong Cardinal hindi rin nagpa-interview?
Meron. Yung iba nga kasi talaga lumalapit pa talaga doon sa sa linya, doon sa barricade kung saan naka-restrict yung media. Pero yung di ba, parang understandable na because of the all the talks around yung the possibility of at least one of our cardinals will na magsasucceed kay Pope Francis. Iba rin yung yung parang dagdag na pressure, at saka parang unwanted, hindi lang gusto yung ganong klaseng attention, I think.
Oo. Si Cardinal Ambo David nagsalita, actually parang may kumakalat sa social media ngayon, also calling for all the talk to come to rest, na pagdasal na lang natin. Pareho ba yung sinabi?
Yeah, it was parang yun yung call. I think yung parang statement came out after yung nagkaroon kasi ng mass, di ba, nag-uusap tayo nung dahil di ko alam kung paano ko mahahabulin yung mass because I'm covering something else in a different area kahapon, di ba? So nag-uusap tayong dalawa. So parang doon nga, parang may mga panawagan nga na gano'n na it's really hard, kahit last week pa pag nag-uusap tayo, sinasabi natin na parang hindi naman talaga siya madadaan sa clamor, mismo dadaan sa mga so-called campaign online, that's not the way it works, because sa conclave ay talagang ano siya, proseso ng mga parang walang katapusang discussion na sila.
Pero si Cardinal Tagle nagpamisa rin pala sa Pontificio Colegio Filipino yesterday. Did you get to hear his
Yesterday.
homily and what did he say?
Okay, well, the theme was Divine Mercy. Teka ha, ayoko i-misquote ang ating cardinal. Pero parang sinasabi niya na yung na napakakinong nung mercy or nung awa. Ayan, sige, i-quote ko siya ha. Sabi niya, we know that mercy will not be defeated by the evil present now in the world. At least isa sa yan sa mga pinaka-quotable quote from that homily, Gretchen.
And of course, alam natin na mercy is one of the main or core values of Pope Francis during his papacy. Did any one of the cardinals talk to you about what they think the church needs moving forward? Kasi yan yung katanungan na pag-uusapan nila sa mga susunod na araw, lalong-lalo na sa conclave.
Wala pa. Ang hirap, Gretchen eh. Nandun tayo. Well, wala tayo doon sa misa, doon sa very early in the morning. No? Pero nandun tayo sa Vatican kung saan sila sumakay nung bus. Nandun din tayo nung arrival nila doon sa Maggiore. Ang hirap eh. Parang more of sila. Kapag kakausapin kayo, more of i-greet ka lang eh. Okay, iabot na yung kamay. No? Pero hindi sila nag-entertain masyado ng questions. Maybe it's because yung mga early pre-conclave meetings, isa sa kanilang napagkasundoan is the secrecy dun sa buong, possibility and the whole process.
Ipuntahan natin yung tomb ni Pope Francis sa Santa Maria Maggiore. Saan ba mahahanap yun? We know that it is near his favorite image there, but where exactly? And is it open to all?
Kasi di ba dalawa, parang yung video, hindi ko lang kung makapakita nila, Carlo, no? Yung kung saan naroon yung mahabang pila, that's the backside, or sabihin, nasa likuran ng church talaga yung dami ng tao na nakapila. So, yung doon kung saan naman kami nagla-live ng TV, yun talaga yung entrance. So, nasa tabi na yung pasukan. Meron tinatawag na holy door. No, isa doon sa mga doors sa harapan 'yon. Nagkataon kapag pumasok ka doon, dire-diretso ka sa dulong-dulo noon, before yung chapel mismo na favorite niya, kung saan naroon yung image ni Mama Mary at saka yung relic nung child Jesus, yung crib ni child Jesus. Nandoon siya sa may entrance noon. So, lalakad ka doon sa mahabang hallway just before mag-main altar, sa left side mo, Gretchen. So, sabi ko kasi nung una, nung nakatakip pa siya, nung nag-walk through ako before yung libing, nalampasan ko siya eh. Nagtanong pa ako ulit doon sa pari doon, sabi niya parang it's just behind me daw. Tapos pagtingin ko, doon pala siya. Sobrang kasing parang nasa entrance lang siya. Tapos parang may confessional na booth na medyo parang masyadong malaki yon para makukumpara mo doon sa puntod niya, no. Tapos ngayon nga na binuksan na siya, makikita mo meron siyang may ilaw naman doon sa doon sa mismong puntod niya. Pero ang simple niya kasi talaga nakalagay lang Franciscus.
Oh, actually napuntahan ko yung chapel na yan, no? Kasi nung narinig ko na dyan gustong magpalibing ni Pope Francis, dumaan ako. Pero bawal yung video and picture taking when something is going on inside that favorite chapel. But it is before pala, no? That special chapel. Gaano
Ngayon,
katagal
parang lahat na may dala ng camera, Gretchen. Noong una nga, nung kahapon, nung nag-attempt ako, sinabihan na kami kasi doon sa media pool na parang, walang coverage, parang nasabi namin, ako bibisita na ako, sa sarili ko, parang personal na pagpasok, tapos bibisita, ganyan. Nung nandun ako near the yung mismong puntod, nakita ko lahat ng tao naman naka-cellphone, ako. Just para lang ma-document for our program. Pero kung tutuusin, akala ko bawal talaga pero ano na, biglang lahat na parang allowed to use it.
How long did you have to line up to get there? And for those who are still making their way to the Vatican, how long are the lines, and what would be needed to get inside?
So, ang guidance is 7 a.m. nagsisimula siya daily. Mula nung binuksan yesterday. Yung pagko-close niya usually 2100 hours pero yung na-extend siya kasi sa dami ng tao nga ano. How long? Karamihan nung na-interview ko mga 2 to 3 hours yung pinila nila. Pero kasi yesterday was different because it was the first day, ano? So we'll check again later kung mabilis na ano. Tulad no sa Basilica sa St. Peter's Square, parang umano siya, bumilis siya no habang lumalaon. So tingnan natin dito sa mga susunod na araw kung mas bibilis pa yun ano. Kung ako, medyo madaya. Hindi naman tayo madaya kasi iba yung entrance natin, di ba?
Because of
Yung mga
media, the
accredited
media ID.
media, parang iba yung entrance ano. Tapos doon ka nga sasabihan na parang okay, we'll allow you pero to enter but don't cover anymore, parang gano'n. We'll just give you pictures, we'll give you ganyan. So, iba lang yung entrance natin. Yeah, pero sabi ko nga, kahit na hindi ko nga dapat i-cover nung nakapasok na, parang personal na lang na parang pilgrimage na pupunta ka na lang sa loob. Kung nakita ko lahat ng tao kumukuha ng video, kumuha na rin ako.
Jovi, we know that world leaders were also there during the funeral rites. What did you know of the President Bobo Marcos's meetings over there? And ano ba yung mga special na kaganapan? Kasi parang nag-usap din si US President Donald Trump at si Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. So what is the latest on that?
I think kung merong nakakastil nung mga moment and it's the conversation between Trump and Zelensky plus yung aided ba? Hindi naman aided kundi may iba pang world leaders around them na before that meeting started ano. So yun ano pero sa tabi parang socials lang lumalabas base sa mga sinishare ni First Lady at saka ng RTVM ay ano lang parang yun, dahil magkakatabi sila or nasa same, at least yung distinct na area. So, nagkakaroon na ng high hellos, ano. Pero, wala talaga nung parang sit-down meeting or sa sidelines na parang substantial, ano. In fact, mabilis lang naman daw no? Pagkatapos niyan, exit na rin naman lahat. Ang ano doon ay, walang labas naman sila. Hindi naman to gawa-gawa or parang fake news. Naglabas naman sila, nag-date sila sa Rome, right? Ang first couple natin ay nag-date pa sila ngayong kahapon, Sunday, dito sa Roma bago tumulak pabalik dyan sa Manila.
Well, as they make their way back to the Philippines, we also await the congregation for today at 9 in the morning. They will talk about the start of the conclave. Abangan natin yan, no? But in the meantime, maraming salamat for joining us and telling us all about your journey there in the Vatican. That was Jovi Francisco, One News Senior Manager for News Content. Don't go away. Morning Matters. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Malacanang expresses sorrow over the tragic incident that happened at a Filipino gathering in Vancouver, Canada. More in this report.
At least 11 people were killed and dozens injured when a man rammed an SUV through a crowd at a Filipino community festival in Vancouver, Canada. Police arrested a 30-year-old suspect at the scene of the incident on Saturday. Authorities described him as having had a significant history of interactions with authorities involving mental health. They said there was no evidence of terrorism.
So for terrorism, there should be some political, religious ideation behind it. There's no indicators that this individual had that. And obviously the history we have with him leans towards that there wasn't any other indicators.
The attack took place 2 days before Canada's federal election. More than 12 hours after the incident, police still did not have a motive for the attack at the festival, which took place without a dedicated police presence or heavy vehicle barriers. According to witnesses, the suspect was initially chased down and held by festival goers until police arrived. The incident happened in Vancouver's Sunset neighborhood, an area known for its large Asian population, where the Lapu-Lapu Day block party, celebrating a Philippine national hero, was taking place.
This is the darkest day in our city's history. Last night, as thousands of members of Vancouver's Filipino community gathered for an important cultural celebration, the actions of a single person shattered our collective sense of safety. It is impossible to overstate how many lives have been impacted forever by this lone individual.
The Department of Foreign Affairs extended its deepest condolences to the victims and families affected by the tragic incident. President Bongbong Marcos also expressed sorrow over the incident. He said the Philippine Consulate General is coordinating with Canadian authorities to ensure a thorough investigation and support for the victims' families. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
The U.S. Marine Corps deployed its Marine Air Defense Integrated System for the first time in the Philippines during this year's Balikatan exercises. MADIS, designed to counter aerial threats like drones, demonstrated its capability to defend Philippine airspace. The exercise also showcased the Philippine Air Force's Spider system, one of the country's most advanced ground-based missile systems, strengthening integrated defense strategies. Meanwhile, the United States Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System, an anti-ship missile, was also deployed for maritime key terrain security operations.
And the more we work together, it'll only seek to enhance our collective lethality. This was a good step forward as far as integrating both capabilities.
Meanwhile, the Chinese Coast Guard has taken control of Sandy Cay, a disputed sandbar near Pag-asa Island. That's according to Chinese state media. State broadcaster CCTV reported that the operation occurred mid-April with personnel deployed to assert China's sovereignty and jurisdiction over the reef. The CCG also conducted inspections and documented what it referred to as illegal activities by the Philippines. However, the National Task Force West Philippine Sea was still able to complete a maritime operation on all Pag-asa Cays yesterday, April 27. The operation observed illegal activity by China Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels, underscoring the government's dedication to protecting national sovereignty. Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back right after a short break. I'm Gretchen Ho, and this is Morning Matters. Self-rated poverty among Filipinos increased in the month of April. According to SWS, self-rated poverty increased to 55% in April from 52% in March. That translates to an estimated 15.5 million poor families, up from 14.4 million. Meanwhile, those who rated their families as not poor dropped to 32%, and those who said they were borderline poor in April remained at 12%. Now, to discuss those figures and give more context on that, we have DSWD Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao joining us live via Zoom. Ms. Irene, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Gretchen. Thank you very much for inviting the DSWD.
Okay, now you heard the figures. This is the fourth consecutive month that we are seeing a rise in the number of self-rated poor in the Philippines. How does the DSWD take this survey?
Well, of course, Gretchen, we recognize the result of this survey, and we use this as a listening tool to assess also the implementation of the various programs of the department that aim to alleviate poverty. In fact, we're using this information and comparing it with other statistical information so that we could intensify programs like the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, which is an investment in human capital, and it aims to break intergenerational cycle of poverty. Apart from that, we continue to also intensify other programs such as the Walang Gutom. We also make sure that we have other programs working to complement these programs that I've mentioned, like the Sustainable Livelihood Program, the Kalahi Seeds. So we make sure that all of this complement with each other so that we could really achieve the objective of reducing poverty incidence in our country. And likewise, this statistical information also motivates us to innovate some more and develop other programs that could contribute in reducing poverty and hunger and malnutrition in our country.
Bakit po kaya may pagtaas ng 4 na sunod-sunod na buwan? Do you have an idea of what happened there or what's been happening? For us to understand, of course, that's coming from the 63% back in December, which was the highest number, I believe, in 21 years, since 2003, or more than 20 years. Do you have any idea as to what is leading to this increase in self-rated poverty?
Well, of course, for deeper analysis of the statistical information, we'll have to defer to experts like the NEDA and the Philippine Statistics Authority. But based on our discussions also, nakita naman natin na marami kasing mga factors that also affect the well-being of our poor, vulnerable, and marginalized sectors. Like in previous interviews, I've mentioned yung mga na-experience natin ng mga disasters or typhoons in the past months, yung mga volcanic eruptions like in Visayas, yung Canlaon. We recognize kasi na disasters affect everyone, but of course the poor, the vulnerable and the marginalized are disproportionately affected, and it exacerbates their current conditions. Kaya nga, ang DSWD, we continue to provide assistance to these families and individuals so that their level of well-being will not further go down and drop them to poverty. May mga iba't iba tayo mga interventions that address the immediate needs, especially if there are shocks and emergencies na nakakaapekto sa kanila. Doon nakafocus si DSWD, Gretchen, on the interventions, on the immediate assistance, so that hindi lalong ma-exacerbate yung conditions ng mga mahirap nating kababayan.
Bagay mga pantawid. Kaya po ay yung 4Ps na nabanggit po ninyo, dyan pumapasok ang DSWD. Pero paano po yung adjustment ng DSWD dito nga po sa sa mga nakikita na babasa po natin. Of course, yung pantawid na yan ay dapat nag-graduate din dyan yung mga tumatawid. Kumbaga parang after, kaya nga yung 4Ps, meron lang siyang specific number of years and then wala na sila sa listahan kapag nakaahon na sila. Paano yung programa ng DSWD na gano'n in identifying how to adjust its programs into what the poor needs in order to really get out of poverty at hindi lang yung ayuda na one time, big time and then aasa na lang. Dahil kapag pumunta ka rin sa ground, actually galing na ako sa isang probinsya, at ang sabi nila doon ay minsan maaaring debilitating din yung ayuda kasi hindi na nagtatrabaho, umaasa na lang sa bigay. So how is the DSWD adjusting its programs?
Okay. Unang-una, Gretchen, the 4Ps or the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program is an investment in human capital, particularly in education and health. There are specific conditions that our beneficiaries need to comply with bago nila matanggap yung kanilang conditional cash grants. Tama ka dun sa nabanggit mo. Based on the 4Ps law, 7 years lamang pwedeng manatili yung mga program beneficiaries sa program. Kung kaya nga po, under the instruction of President Marcos Jr., we are now providing livelihood opportunities or employment opportunities to each graduating beneficiary to sustain the improvement in their level of well-being. How do we measure or how do we assess the improvement in the level of well-being? Meron po tayo mga program personnel sa bawat munisipyo na nag-implement tayo ng program at ina-assess ito using the social welfare and development indicators para makita kung level 1, level 2, o level 3. Kapag level 3 or self-sufficient na po sila, pwede na sila mag-exit sa program. Pero hindi natin sila hinahayaan. Before we transition and turn them over to their respective local government units, tinitiyak natin na nakakapag-participate sila sa mga isinasagawa natin ngayon ng mga jobs fair. In partnership with DOLE, TEA, and other key agencies of the government, DSWD now is providing opportunities sa mga graduating beneficiaries na ito or exiting beneficiaries para mas masustain yung improvement in their level of well-being. And tama ka dun sa sinabi mo, para hindi nga sila bumalik pa uli doon sa kahirapan. And in addition to that, may mga ibang programs tayo nagko-complement, kagaya ng Sustainable Livelihood Program. Nagko-complement din yan sa 4Ps. We provide also livelihood opportunities to our beneficiaries by capacitating them and providing them the necessary resources because again, we wanted to sustain yung improvement sa kanilang level of well-being. But then again, we recognize that there are some shocks or there are some emergencies that exposes their vulnerabilities. Kung kaya meron tayong mga ibang program like the assistance to individuals in crisis situation para immediately ma-address yung mga adverse shocks or crisis na kinakaharap nila. Kasi alam naman natin, Gretchen, even if maganda yung kanilang kabuhayan, mayroong trabaho ang isang miyembro ng pamilya. Pero if there's a member of the family who gets sick, hospitalized, or somebody dies because of a terminal illness, na-exhaust yung resources nila. Kaya meron tayong mga social assistance like assistance to individuals in crisis situation. At the same time, kapag may miyembro ng pamilya na naapektuhan ng inflation, meron din naman tayong ibang social safety net dyan, yung ayuda para sa Kapos at Freedom Program. So, you see, nagko-complement yung iba't ibang programs and services of the DSWD and of other government agencies. That's why we adopt a whole of government approach in addressing or in arresting yung problema on poverty.
Okay, actually, medyo ang dami po kasing mga programa na naririnig natin na ayuda program. For example, yung nabanggit mo, AX, nandun din yung AKAP, at nandun din yung tupad. Ano yung pagkakaiba ng tatlo? I mean, may specific point ba yan in time when ito, papasok natin yung AX, yung tupad para dito, yung AKAP para dito. Yung tupad, actually, kasi nabanggit mo na yung AKAP ay trabaho, para din dun pagkatapos nung shock, in shock situations. But yung tupad, saan naman pumapasok yun? At anong kaibahan dun sa AX at saka sa AKAP?
Well, of course, TUPAD is also an intervention, but that is being spearheaded by the Department of Labor and Employment.
Okay.
Yung AICS and AKAP, yan po yung ini-implement naman ng DSWD. These are social assistance na immediately pinoprovide natin sa mga individuals who are facing certain crises or emergencies. And in AKAP nga, yan ay for individuals who are affected by the inflation and are not earning more than the statutory minimum wage. Ito ay mga interventions na binibigay natin to address some immediate needs as a result of adverse shocks or crises or emergencies na kinakaharap ng isang pamilya. Comparing it to the 4Ps, which is a developmental program, yung 4Ps kasi it's an investment and in the human capital, as I've earlier mentioned. And there are specific conditions that the beneficiaries need to comply with. Hindi yan basta-basta na ibinibigay. May core responsibilities or co-obligations yung ating mga 4Ps beneficiaries kasi naniniwala tayo para maka-break yung ating mga beneficiaries, lalong-lalo na yung mga bata from the intergenerational cycle of poverty. We have to provide them the necessary education and give access to them para ma-achieve nila yung academic requirements nila, lalo na ng mga bata, and maging malusog yung mga bata because they could only be productive and they would have a better chances of being fully employed in the future kapag sila ay malulusog. So yun naman yung objective ng program.
And the 4Ps program has garnered praise from different parts of the world over its success. But the same could not be said over the ayuda programs. The ayuda programs have been the source of worry for many over the guardrails over which these programs would be implemented. Paano po natin nasisiguro na hindi ito maabuso? Meron po ba tayong datos? Una-una, doon sa nabanggit po ninyo sa AKAP, ito po ay para sa mga minimum wage earners who might need the bridge, no, para makatawid doon sa mga sitwasyon na yun. Pero pag tinignan niyo po yung guidelines, medyo malawak din po yung sakop niya. Meron din siyang medical assistance, meron din siyang burial assistance, meron din siyang food assistance, rice assistance, at iba pa. At nakasulat din doon sa guidelines po niya ay pwedeng more than isang beses na tumanggap ng ayuda mula sa AKAP program. Paano po yun? Paano po ang takbo nun? Meron po ba tayong numero as to how many this program should reach?
Yeah. Actually, meron tayong accomplishment report niyan. For 2024, tama, no? We have guidelines on the implementation of the program. For the Ayuda para sa Kapusan Kita program, in 2024, we've served around 5 million beneficiaries. Ito yung mga individuals na hindi po nag-earn ng more than the statutory minimum wage but are affected by inflation. Yes, once every 3 months po based on the guidelines pwedeng makatanggap ng assistance. Ganun din yung dun sa assistance to individuals in crisis situation. Yung AICS kasi meron din niyang financial assistance, referral services, non-financial assistance. Dun sa financial, nabanggit niyo yung medical, burial, transportation. Again, ang objective ng mga programang yun ay to provide the necessary assistance to individuals who are facing crisis or emergencies.
Pero hindi po ba sa AICS yun? Hindi po ba dapat sa AICS yun na nagkakaroon ng overlap over the definition kung pareho po sila ay ganun po yung pakay po nung ayuda?
Well, yung AICS kasi ano yan, based on the assessment of our social workers, nakikita kung talagang affected nga ng isang crisis or emergency, kagaya nga ng pagkakasakit ng isang family member. Doon din naman, kung ikukumpara naman natin siya doon sa ayuda para sa Kapos ang Kita program, ito kasi yung may trabaho pero hindi sapat. Yun naman sa iba, sa AICS kasi, pwedeng yung mga indigent talaga.
Kahit walang trabaho. Oo.
Walang trabaho, pero nakakaranas ng krisis. Kaya nakikater naman natin sila dyan.
Asek, meron ba tayong graduation din mula dito sa mga ayuda program? May maximum amount ba na pwede lang matanggap ng isang individual? Kasi nakikita ko po dito, parang iba-iba yung amounts niya for the different kinds of assistance. But paano kung wari ako ay mag-apply ng ng AKAP at paulit-ulit ko pong ginawa yun? Meron ba akong parang graduation point or meron po ba kayong assessment point na okay na to, wag na natin bigyan ito? Dapat kahit papano ngayon ay nakatayo na siya sa kanyang paa, so that we do not make them dependent on these social programs.
Yes, Gretchen. Actually, yung mga social workers po natin na nag-a-assess sa ating mga clients o mga beneficiaries, tinitignan yung mga support services, the external resources of the beneficiaries, and likewise of their family members. Kaya nga merong interview na ginagawa. And apart from that, tinitingnan din yung mga documents na sinasubmit sa atin. Sa medical assistance kasi, Gretchen, that's under ICE. Tinitingnan ng ating mga social workers kung ano ba yung sakit. Ano rin ba yung medical certificate o medical abstract na sinasubmit galing sa mga doctors nila. That's part of the assessment para makita kung talagang nangangailangan ba ng regular na suporta. And then what are the other support mechanisms? Meron din ba silang natatanggap mula sa external partners din natin, no? Like the DOH or other agencies.
Pero pagdating po sa trabaho, kasi ito yung kapos sa kita, So meron ba tayong parang, dapat sa dulo ng programa, pag nabigyan natin to, ay makakuha na siya ng trabaho. Kasi parang sa nakikita niyo po, ay sinasabi po niyo ay assessment po ng social worker. So much of it, it would seem, is reliant on the point of view of our social workers. Are there more concrete milestones that should be reached?
Actually, Gretchen, I was proceeding to that na
Okay.
Dun sa assessment na ginagawa ng workers, tinitignan din kung ano ba yung skills, ano yung competencies, ano ba yung educational background noong client o ng beneficiary or their family members. Sa social work kasi may tinatawag din tayo na case referral. So, habang ina-assess ng social worker natin yung immediate need ng family, tinitignan din natin yung long-term na assistance. So, nakikita natin, nakapagtapos naman, meron namang skills, kinakailangan lang na i-capacitate further. So, rini-refer din natin sa TESDA para mas ma-enhance o ma-improve yung kanilang skills. At the same time, rini-refer din natin sa either sa Sustainable Livelihood Program ng DSWD or doon naman sa Department of Labor and Employment. So dyan po pumapasok yung ibang interventions na nakikita ng isang social worker. Kasi hindi lamang po nag-e-end yung ating assistance doon sa social assistance or financial assistance na ipinoprovide. We're also looking at other interventions. Again, the overall objective is to improve the level of well-being.
Secretary, ASEC, the COMELEC has suspended several ayuda programs in different areas over alleged abuse of these programs in relation to the elections. What is your reaction to that? And meron po ba tayong mga reports na ng pang-abuso na natatanggap?
Well, Gretchen, of course, we're very grateful to the COMELEC for acting favorably on our request na ma-exempt yung mga iba't ibang programs and services natin doon sa COMELEC ban on public fund spending during this period. Because this means na hindi mahahamper yung pag-provide natin o pag-extend ng essential social welfare services to our clients and beneficiaries. Nakikita kasi natin na mga itong tulong na ito, of course, are very vital. And yung hindi pag-hamper ng delivery nito would really immensely help yung ating mga kababayan, especially those who are undergoing crisis. And tinitiyak naman ng department that there are certain safeguards instituted to insulate our programs and services from any forms of political interferences. In addition to that, we are also in close coordination with our partners para matulungan kami na pantayan yung implementation nito, lalong-lalo na on the ground, and ma-safeguard nga ito from any form of abuse.
In the final 10 days leading up to the elections, all the ayuda programs are suspended. Meron po ba tayong adjustments o kakayanin naman po na kahit naka-suspend po yan?
That's correct. Nakalagay po doon sa memorandum ng COMELEC na 10 days before the election day ay wala na po tayong mga off-site activities. Kung kaya nga po yung mga magpapatuloy na lamang po ay yung dito yung sa on-site o yung regular na dinidistribute ng DSWD like yung burial, yung medical assistance sa mga tanggapan na po ng DSWD. Wala na po tayong isasagawa sa mga covered courts o mga gymnasiums, lahat po ng ipoprocess, yung mga immediate na assistance ay ipoprocess po sa mga tanggapan po ng aming ahensya. And we would like to guarantee the public that the delivery of essential services will not be hampered. We will continue to cater to the immediate needs of our clients and at the same time make sure that we prescribe or we follow doon sa mga existing guidelines po ng aming department.
Klaro po yan, pag may umiikot na pera sa mga voting areas ay hindi po yan ayuda at hindi po yan galing sa DSWD. Okay, maraming salamat at we hope magkaroon pa tayo ng mas sapat na pag-aaral para lalo pang mapagtibay ang ating mga programa sa DSWD sa paglutas ng itong ating kahirapan sa Pilipinas, pati na rin yung self-rated poverty that we are seeing over in the numbers. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We have DSWD Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao. Don't go away. More matters to discuss right after the break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Watching Morning Matters here on One News. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel has directed the National Food Authority to move rice stocks to the Visayas in preparation for the 20 pesos a kilo program. The initiative was given the green light after the Commission on Elections granted the Department of Agriculture an exemption from the election ban. The rice will come from the NFA's buffer stocks, which have reached a 5-year high of 378,157 metric tons. The Visayas was selected for the pilot due to its higher poverty rates, particularly in regions such as Negros Island and Eastern Visayas. Meanwhile, mainstream media and influencers faced off in News 5's Manindigan debate Sunday. Vlogger Orion Perez Dumdum said both mainstream media and social media should not be pitted against each other, as he pointed out that both platforms have their own shortcomings. Meanwhile, UP Diliman Associate Professor Danilo Arao emphasized the importance of critical thinking. He urged the public to refrain from becoming accomplices to darkness and evil, especially now that elections are approaching. You may watch the full episode of that.
Na may mga taong galing sa mainstream media, ay meron ding social media, tawag nating mainstream media anchor, katulad ng isa nating Pedrosa sa kanyang Philstar column. So,
hanggat itinataguyod niya ang pinakamataas na pamantayan ng katotohanan, dapat lang na ituring na mapagkakatiwala mutukoy sa ilang nag-iyakang individual sa isang pagdinig sa kamera dahil nahirapang ipagtanggol ang mga sinulat nila, bagamat pwede ring sabihing medyo na masyon, lalo na sa social media, malamang na hindi, pero patikim pa lang ito.
Those were tidbits from yesterday's debate. To watch the full episode, you can tune in to the social media accounts of 1PH and 1 News and look for Manindigan. Pag-usapan po natin yan kung saan nga ba tayo dapat kumuha ng impormasyon. But in the meantime, that is it for today's episode of Morning Matters. I hope you have a good week ahead. My name is Gretchen Hall. We are 1 News, all sides, all the time.